They say love is easy when the sun is shining. But real love is tested when the storm comes, when staying becomes harder than living. This is the story of Tari and Ebi, two souls bound not just by vows, but by fire, the kind that refines or destroys. It is a story of what it truly means to stay, not because you have no choice, but because love, when anchored in faith, becomes courage itself, where the beauty of African love meets the power of human endurance. Welcome to the Afro Tales with Kemi, where ancient legends meet with modern storytelling. So sit back, open your heart, and walk with me through today's tale, told as always, the African way. I am Kemi Iwalesi. When Tari met Ebi, it wasn't just a meeting, it was a homecoming. It was laughter at first sight, the kind that bubbled from a place so deep within them, it felt like a truth they had always known. He was the calm to her fire, where she was all impromptu adventures and loud, joyful proclamations. He was the steady ground beneath her feet. And she, in turn, was the unexpected song in his quiet world, drawing out melodies he didn't know he could hum. Together, they built a small yellow house on the sun-drenched edges of Elelewo, a sanctuary where the air was always thick with the scent of jollof rice and the sound of Fela Kuti on a Saturday morning. The walls were thin, but they held a universe within them. The rhythm of Ebi's soldering iron in the corner he called his workshop, the bright chorus of children's voices as Tari practiced phonics for her class, and the symphony of their late-night laughter weaving dreams under the ceiling fan. He worked as an electrical engineer, his hands patiently untangling complex circuits, while she untangled the wondrous minds of children at the local primary school. Their pockets were not heavy with money, but their lives were rich with the currency that mattered: shared plates of food, fingers intertwined during evening walks, and a silence that was never empty, but brimming with a profound and easy understanding. In those early years, wrapped in the golden haze of their togetherness, they believed with every fiber of their being that the love they had built was a fortress. They believed it would always, always be enough. But then the quiet warnings began. A faint whispering pain in her joints that Tari dismissed as tiredness. Then a sudden collapse in the bustling market, her body giving way amidst the vibrant chaos of sellers and scents. A premonition in broad daylight. At first, the doctors said it was stress. They prescribed rest. Then the diagnosis shifted, growing heavier. Fibroids, they said, a common thief of women's vitality. But the pain had roots that ran deeper still, coiling into something more sinister. Finally, a name was given to the unseen enemy, an autoimmune condition where her own body had turned against itself. The life they had so carefully built began to rearrange itself around her illness. Hospital visits and the smell of antiseptic replaced their cherished date nights. The small table by their bed, once adorned with a vase of fresh flowers, was now a solemn pharmacy of pill bottles, their clinical scents overpowering the sweet fragrance of her perfume. The world, with its practical and pitying eyes, began to whisper, then to speak aloud. His friends over bottles of beer would lean in with well-intentioned advice. "Tari, look at you," they say, their voices laced with a grim logic. "You are still a young man, no children to tie you down. Just constant draining hospital bills. This is not the life you signed up for. You can still start again. His colleagues, seeing the weariness etched into his face, offered him a different kind of escape. Brother, you've done your best. You've been a saint. But no one will blame you if you walk away. This is too much for any one man to carry. And then came the call that cut the deepest from the voice that had always been his anchor. His mother, gentle, prayerful Mama Tonye. Her sigh traveled all the way from the village, a sound heavy with a mother's aching heart. My son, she said, her voice softening the harshness of the words with proverbial wisdom. Love no dey mean you must suffer past your capacity. Now woman, she go understand if you choose to move on. Your own life matter too. Each word was a weight added to the scales, testing the balance between societal expectation and sacred promise. But Tari would simply listen, his gaze fixed on some distant points on the memory of a woman dancing in the rain. Then a faint sorrowful smile would touch his lips, not of joy, but of unshakable conviction. Mommy, he would reply, his voice quiet but solid as bedrock. I stood before God and our families. I made a vow, for better or for worse, not for better alone. It was not a rebuke, but a declaration. His love was not a fair weather shelter. It was a fortress built for storms, and he would stand his post, even if he stood alone. One night, when the storm in her body was at its worst, Ebi looked at Tari with tired eyes and whispered, Tari, I am tired. You deserve someone who can give you joy again. And for the first time, he broke. His tears fell freely as he held her hand. Ebi, don't you see? You are my joy. You are my covenant, not my convenience. He prayed that night, not for a miracle, but for strength. In that room, surrounded by antiseptic and hope, he learned that love isn't proven by grand gestures, but by staying when the world says go. The air in the church was thick with faith and fervor, a palpable force that harmed the whispered place. The women from the fellowship, a sea of vibrant and steadfast spirits, gathered around Ebi, laying their hands upon her weary frame. Some prayed in booming declarations that echoed off the vaulted ceiling, commanding sickness to flee. Others, with tears streaming down their faces, cried quietly, their compassion a silent, soaking rain. And there, in the center of that storm of sound and supplication, Ebi's own soul grew still. The voices around her became a distant ocean roar. Closing her eyes, she let go of the desperate transactional prayer for a miracle. Instead, from a place of raw surrendered honesty, a new prayer was born. If you won't heal me, Lord, she whispered, a breath so faint only the angels could hear, then teach me. Teach me how to live fully, joyfully, and completely inside this broken body of mine. That prayer became a new foundation. Every day after that, as the sun rose, she and Tari would sit together. They would pray, sometimes with words, lifting their hopes and fears, but more often in a silence that was deeper than any language, a shared space where their spirits touched and held one another. They learned to find a different kind of abundance, They laughed, a real genuine sound, over a batch of plantain she had accidentally burnt black. They made a ritual of watching the sun bleed into the horizon from their small balcony, her head resting on his shoulder. They began to see each returning dawn not as another day of battle, but as a small miraculous victory. The faith they've cultivated did not always heal her body. The pain was a constant unwelcome tenant. But it did something perhaps more profound. It healed the hairline cracks of despair that had begun to form in their hearts. It taught them that a life could be rebuilt around pain, and that joy was not the absence of suffering, but the courage to find beauty in spite of it. The rhythm of their fragile new normal was shattered on a quiet Sunday morning. The scent of brewing tea and frying eggs was cut short by the sound of a body hitting the floor. Abby had collapsed in the kitchen, a silent, sudden heap amazed in domesticity. In the terrifying silence that followed, Tari's own heart nearly stopped in his chest. In the sterile, unforgiving light of the hospital, time stretched into an agony. He wore a path on the floor, a caged animal of grief and fear. His prayers became a raw, repetitive mantra whispered into the stagnant air. Psalm 46, a lifeline he clung to with desperate faith. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Each word was a beat of his heart, a plea for an anchor in the storm. After an eternity measured in beeping machines and hushed voices, the doctor emerged. His face was a mask of professional empathy. "She's stable for now," he said, the words offering a fleeting cool hope before the blow landed. "But Mr. Briggs, it's time. You must prepare for the possibility that she may not recover fully. This may be her new baseline." The words did not just land. They sliced through him, a surgical blade severing the last fragile thread of hope for a complete restoration. It was the final official surrender of the future they had once dreamed of. But later that night, in the hushed sanctuary of her hospital room, as he watched the slow, steady rise and fall of her chest, a different kind of strength settled in his spirit. He took her limp hand in his thumb gently tracing the lines of her palm. Leaning close, his voice a low, unwavering vow that only she, in the depths of her unconsciousness, could receive, he whispered, "Listen to me, my love. Even if you never walk strong again, even if this room becomes our world, I will stay. Not because I have to, but because I get to. My love for you was never a condition of your health. It is my calling, and I will answer it until my last breath." The months that followed were a refining fire. Their days were a grueling cycle of physical therapy sessions that left Abby trembling and spent, a mountain of hospital bills that threatened to bury them, and a bone-deep exhaustion that felt like a permanent state of being. It was a season of ash and ember, where the life they knew was completely consumed. But that very fire, for all its searing heat, also purified. It burned away the non-essentials, the pride of self-sufficiency, the fear of what others thought, and the fragile illusion that they were ever in control. In the scorched earth of their old lives, something stronger began to take root. Then in miracle, hard-won and humble, Abby began to walk again. Not the swift confident strides of her past, but slowly, shakily, her hand gripping Tari's arm like an anchor. every step was a testimony, not to her own strength, but to a resilience she didn't know she possessed. Every stumble was met not with frustration, but with a whispered, "Thank you, Jesus." A praise for the simple, miraculous ability to try again. At work, Tari's colleagues, seeing the new lines of wear and wisdom on his face, would clap him on the shoulder. "Guy, you try, oh," they'd say, a testament to his unwavering endurance. But Tari would only offer a soft, knowing smile, one that held the memory of fire and the peace of surrender. "No," he would reply gently, his voice firm with conviction. "I didn't just try, I was carried. What you see isn't my strength. Grace did this." One bright Sunday, she stood in church, frail but radiant. "I came to thank God, not because He healed me completely, but because He never left me. And He sent me a man who showed me what Christ's love looks like. Patient, faithful, enduring." Tari lowered his head, tears streaming. In that moment, every sleepless night, every whispered prayer, every act of staying was sanctified. 6 months later, long after they had made peace with a future of quiet contentment for two, a miracle arrived, tender and unexpected. Against every stark medical expectation, against the finality of the doctor's pronouncements, Ebi conceived. The thin blue line on the test strip was a declaration of war on impossibility. A life blooming defiantly in soil once declared barren. Their son was born on a night when the heavens seemed to weep with joy, the gentle Port Harcourt rain drumming a lullaby on the hospital roof. And when they held him, this tiny breathing testament to grace, they knew his name could only be one thing: terminal reign. A declaration in the flesh, a constant reminder that God reigns over every diagnosis, every despair, every broken dream. In the quiet moments, rocking his son to sleep, Tari would often reflect on the journey. He would look at Ebi, her body still bearing the marks of their battle, but now radiating a different kind of strength, and he would say, his voice thick with the truth earned through fire, "I didn't stay with your mother because of what I hoped to gain. I didn't stay for a reward. I stayed because love, true love, doesn't flee the fire. It endures. It picks up a shovel and builds in the ashes." And sometimes he would whisper, kissing the baby's forehead, through that sacred endurance, God Himself reaches down and writes a new beginning. Tari and Ebi's story isn't about perfect love, it's about faithful love. The courage to stay isn't weakness, it's strength wrapped in tears, prayers, and late-night faith. It's the kind of love that holds your hand when you're unlovable, the kind that reflects the heart of God. And to everyone who's staying through a storm, in marriage, in sickness, in life, remember, sometimes the greatest miracle isn't deliverance, it's endurance. The fire of courage doesn't destroy, it refines. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay.